let's remain standing and pay a moment of silence for the heroes and heroines that has passed on this faithful day. Can we bow our head? May their soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you. May get seated. My name is Joseph Norman Khatebe. I know a lot of you, many of you, this face is familiar to you. I am going to co-program direct with Mr. Kwezi from the NHC. My work here will be very minimal, but just to introduce him to the platform today. But I will be failing as a program director if I do not take you into confidence, first and foremost, of the broader reasons why we are here. VUT, as a very critical institution of higher learning in Vaal, has taken a resolve to remain relevant in the discourse that has affected us over a period of time, not only as the community of VUT, but the community of the Vaal in its entirety. One is always pleased to see the consistency of the Khulumani support group. Omama no baba bekhulumani ibambeni sizonqoba sisonke. We are simply responding today to the national imperatives. One will think of the National Development Plan, while it is encut between in chapter 15 of that plan. We've got a fundamental responsibility as a society to build social cohesion and nation building. And this is exactly what we are doing. But also, we are responding to the outcome 6 and outcome 14 and priority 6 of the medium strategic framework. It means that this program is a national program. And we are so pleased that we have chosen this day, despite all the challenges that we've been facing today of water. We know that we woke up today without water, but we have chosen to be resilient, and that is commendable. Our role program director today will be to at least streamline, but be cognizant of the participation that is from community. That is very critical. We value and anchor the voice of the community. But what is of importance is the message that will be imparted to students. When you talk about Sharpeville 21 March massacre, there is a significant importance that is embedded in that particular event. That history, that legacy will be taken forward by students who are here. We are also told that there are assignments that have been attached to students, and there will be prizes for participation. Why we are doing this, we are trying to make a program that is impactful and that is sustainable to your kind self going forward. But most importantly, we are embedding the element of a scholarship. Mepetane will argue that you are calling us year in, year out, and yet your programs remains rhetoric. We are trying to make a difference. We've got very prolific speakers today that will share and give to their confidence what is it that they think as a collective we will do. But also we have VUT as an institution of higher learning that you can use to leverage your life or to change your life. VUT is open. I know that we've got Lebohang Secondary School, which is in Buipatong, that is where I'm coming from, but we are also having Likwashana. Own VUT is yours. I am officially introducing my co-program director, Mr. Kwezi. Mr. Kwezi, the platform is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. National Heritage Council is pleased to be working with the Vaal University of Technology. The platform that Hadebe is for our speakers. And I will just encourage them to keep the time in the light of the logistics that we are facing. We're very grateful, especially for making the time to come. And we know that we did not tell you a month in advance. And so when you whip us, do it with kindness. We're still young. Don't worry that we've been around for a long time. We're still young if we add up the years. And thank you, young people. Thank you, fellow students. A lot of us are students for life. So we are fellow students with you. Right now, I will ask our Vice Chancellor to welcome us into this space. VC, I'd like to give you your time.
Another round of applause. Let's get energized. Let's get rejuvenated. Let's give an honor to speakers. Again, we are not going to be long. Visit.
Thank you, program directors, Mr. Joseph Atere and Mr. Kwezi Uluana. Let me take this opportunity to recognize Mr. Martinez, our guest speaker. I am super excited and looking forward to your talk. As a thought leader, whenever you are sent to the podium, one cannot expect no less than deep and meaningful engagement that is very informative and inspirational. To the chairperson of the National Heritage Council, Mr. Edgar Nirvani, Chief Executive Officer of the National Heritage, Dr. Divoniswani Lukwareni, council members in our midst, officials from the National Heritage Council, officials from the Departments of Sports, Arts and Culture, survivors of the Sharpeville massacre, relatives and family members of the victims of the Sharpeville massacre. We also look at the representatives from the Vaal History Research and Archives Initiative, management, staff and students of the Vaal University of Technology present here, learners from Suncrest, Lebohang and Moshatana secondary schools, our distinguished guests, members of the surrounding communities, and with all protocols observed, it is my great honor and privilege to welcome you all to the Vaal University of Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not my intention to bore you with the history of the Human Rights Day in South Africa. Most of it has been documented, and those who speak after me can also expand on it. However, I deem it important to pay homage to the many lives lost, including women and children, and the injuries of hundreds of others on that fateful day of 21st March 1960 in Sharpeville, which is a stone's throw from where we are right now. It is because of those sacrifices that today you and I get to enjoy the benefits of living in a free country. Program directors, might I mention that more than anything else, this day should serve as a reminder of the fundamental principles upon which our societies are built. The inherent dignity and worth of every human being, regardless of race, gender, religion, or any other characteristics. Human Rights Day is not merely a commemoration, it is an acknowledgement of the struggles endured, the sacrifices made, and the progress achieved in the pursuit of equality, justice, and freedom for all. It is a day to reflect on the journey we have traveled thus far and to recommit ourselves to the ongoing struggle for human rights around the world. As we stand here today, we cannot ignore the harsh realities that continue to plague our world. Injustice, discrimination, oppression, and violence are still rampant in many corners of the globe. But on this day, we also draw inspiration from countless individuals and communities who have risen up against these injustices, often at great personal risk to demand their inherent rights. We honor the activists who tirelessly advocate for the rights of the marginalized and the oppressed, the defenders who risk their lives to protect the vulnerable, and the countless unsung heroes who work quietly behind the scenes to promote human dignity and justice. We must confront the systemic inequalities and injustices that persist in our societies, and we must hold accountable those who seek to undermine the rights of others enshrined by the Bill of Rights in Chapter 2 of the Constitution. One of those rights is the right to education, basic education including adult basic education and to further education. The late former Secretary General of the United Nations and a Nobel Peace Laureate, Kofi Annan, understood this too well when he said, I quote, "Education is a human right with immense power to transform. On its foundation rest the cornerstones of freedom, democracy, and sustainable human development," unquote. As a staunch crusader of education myself, and a leader of an institution of higher learning, it would be remiss of me not to mention that exactly 6 years after the Sharpeville massacre, this university was established. It was first established as a college for advanced technical education in 1966, and then transitioned into a technikon in 1979. With the restructuring of the higher education landscape, the institution became a University of Technology as of 2004, and has seen significant growth in its activities and reach since that time. While we are still there, let me seize the moment, Program Directors, to inform this august House that this year we are celebrating 20 years as a University of Technology. Throughout the years, VUT has continuously to offer an expansive catalogue of industry-tailored undergraduate and postgraduate programs, which span the fields of applied and computer science, engineering and technology, human sciences, and of course, management sciences. Our diverse program qualification mix caters to a wide range of students with interest and ambitions in various disciplines. With several centers of excellence and NRF-rated professors, we do pride ourselves with being associated with world-class academics and researchers who not only produce groundbreaking research that solves real-life problems, but also empower aspiring researchers to engage the most experienced minds in several research fields as supervisors and aides. Located in the historical industrial hub, we have a vision to foster, I quote, "learning and innovation for a digitally smart and sustainable industrial progress and socio-economic transformation," unquote. Our mission is to produce techno-entrepreneurial graduates and innovators who will serve as catalysts for the vibrant transformation of a flourishing and sustainable society, industry, and commerce. To achieve this, we aim to provide technology-enhanced teaching and learning, quality living and learning communities, high-impact research and innovation that contributes to solving society and industry challenges. Program directors, I do believe it would be for the benefit of this House to know that in South Africa, we are the only university that fully owns a science technology park, located strategically in Sebokeng. It is a home to the technology transfer and innovation, which is a strategic technology hub that endeavors to promote South African SMEs and industrial competitiveness. On the protection of human rights, VUT walks the talk. We have the VUT Law Clinic, which offers legal services to the indigent members of the Ifuleni community. The clinic helps on matters related to domestic violence, maintenance, divorces, drafting of wills, children's courts, social justice issues such as the right to housing and unlawful evictions, as well as labor-related issues, especially unfair dismissals. Very important to note is that we do all this at no cost, free of charge. Ladies and gentlemen, you will bear with me. I have, of course, a weakness of being carried away whenever I get the opportunity to brag about our institution, especially when I see young ones, those who are looking forward to be our students in the future. Now, before I get carried away, let me come back to the business of the day. This human rights public lecture is a forum dedicated to fostering understanding, collaboration, and progress in the realm of human rights. As Vice Chancellor and Principal of this esteemed institution, I'm deeply committed to promoting the values of equality, dignity, and justice that lie at the heart of human rights movement. In today's interconnected world, the pursuit of human rights has never been more crucial, and I could not think of a befitting thing than today's one, that is, I quote, seeking restoration of human dignity through our heritage in the 30 years of democracy, unquote. We are confronted with a plethora of challenges, of course, from systemic discrimination and social inequality to threats against fundamental freedoms and the rule of law. It is incumbent upon all of us, academics, activists, policymakers, and citizens, to confront these challenges head-on and work towards to build a more just and inclusive society. Therefore, today's dialogue provides us the unique opportunity to engage in deep, meaningful conversations, share insights and experiences, and explore innovative solutions to pressing human rights issues by bringing together diverse perspectives and expertise. We can develop a deeper understanding of the complexities surrounding human rights and identify concrete actions to address them. As we begin this gathering, let us affirm our unwavering commitment to upholding the principles enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is a milestone document in the history of human rights. Let us strive to create an environment where every individual, regardless of race, gender, religion, or background, can live with dignity, respect, and freedom. And let us remember that the pursuit of human rights is not just a moral imperative. It is essential for building a more peaceful, prosperous, and a sustainable world for the generations to come. I encourage each and every one of you, especially the young ones, to actively participate in today's discussions, to listen attentively to different perspectives, and to engage with empathy and compassion. Together, we can make a difference and advance the cause of human rights for all. Before I take my seat, may I remind you that the struggle for human rights is not the responsibility of a select few, but rather a collective endeavor that requires the active participation of each and every one of us. As I conclude, Let me borrow from the late Dr. Nelson Mandela when he said, I quote, "To deny people their human rights is to deny their very humanity," unquote. With those few words, I want to take this opportunity to once again thank you all for gracing our institution with your presence and your commitment to this vital endeavor. I welcome you all, and may you have a fruitful and inspiring dialogue. Thank you.
Re Kwezi Umlwana and Re Hadebe. Let me also acknowledge that we are not standing in a vacuum. We are standing in a municipality, and we are standing here because the municipality has allowed us to come here. Most importantly, let me acknowledge the personal presence of the VC himself. We are very grateful that amidst your very busy schedule, you found time to be with us. Let me thank the speaker, keynote speaker, who is here with us to impart whatever notes he has prepared. And as you know, the transfer of knowledge depends on how porous you are. If you remain hard, you might miss some of the very important issues. Let me acknowledge the Kulumani group, the veterans, and the people who were there. Most of us theorize what we have read in the newspapers and what we have seen, but some of you have seen people falling down and passing on. And this is the story, the never again story, that today we need to pass over to our kids. And I'm glad that the kids found time in their disciplined self, obviously allowed by the teachers, to come here and prioritize this event over and above watching TikTok. Let me appreciate the presence of our council member as well, Councillor Tseshane, who made time to be here. Let me acknowledge our colleagues. Let me acknowledge the students of here. Let me acknowledge the members of the media. In whichever numbers you have turned out to be in this hall, we appreciate that you have made a choice to be here. So we basically thank you very much for that. And as I begin, I start by thanking you for making time to join us today in this very significant event. This year marks the 30th years of our freedom, and these 3 decades are to remind South Africans about the sacrifices that accompanied the struggle for the attainment of democracy. Human Rights Month serves as a reminder of the ongoing work needed to uphold and protect human rights for all individuals worldwide. It encourages reflection, action, and solidarity in the pursuit of a more just and equitable world. So as our leader said, Nelson Mandela, we are not free until some of the countries that he mentioned are also free. Today's occasion is part of National Heritage Council's response to a call to use Human Rights Month to foster greater social cohesion, nation building, and a shared national identity. It is in our similarities that we think we can grow to be a better nation than overemphasizing our subtle differences that most of them are artificial. It is our duty as a nation to strive for inclusive social economic development while ensuring that we combat scourges such as racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and all related intolerances, as well as gender-based violences and femicides, which are undermining our human rights culture. The National Heritage Council's contribution to knowledge production helps ensure that we do not become a nation that does not know its history. and that does not deserve its future. Today's engagement on human rights seeks the restoration of human dignity through our heritage in the past 30 years of democracy. Structuring it in this way ensures that the memory of the Sharpeville, Langa, and other martyrs of the struggle live on, and it ensures that the values of human rights and guarantees contained in the Bill of Rights are sustained and carried to future generations. Structuring it this way also ensures we enforce our commitment to the Bill of Rights as enshrined in our Constitution. While a good start has been made, there is still much hard work to be done before the commitment is fulfilled. Each sector of society has an important role to play and must use these tools in a concerted effort to create a better life for all. The presence of high school learners, of distinguished guests and professors, of seasoned heritage leaders, of activists, of veterans and citizens is not because they don't have any other thing to do, but they feel it necessary that we must gather here to reinforce that the freedom that we so much enjoy today was not free. And this story must not be allowed to die. The National Heritage Council is the implementing agent of the South African Cabinet-led chapter of the African Roads to Independent Initiative. The initiative is known as the Resistance and Liberation Heritage Route, and the implementation of this initiative is carried through 7 different work streams. These include research and knowledge, production, alternative forms of memorialization, world heritage, infrastructure, and others. Today, in collaboration with the university and the municipality, we seek to commit ourselves to not allow anyone or any grouping or structure in our society to tribalize our human rights or to reverse the gains of our hard-won democracy. As I said, our freedom was not free. As it was mentioned by the program director, Sharpeville is part of the 10-part serial nomination that South Africa has put forward for UNESCO. And once this is enshrined and recognized, then you will have a site that is recognized as part of the human rights liberation struggle and recognition, the Nelson Mandela Legacy Site. And this is something that the people cannot take away from the people of this region. In conclusion, I want to say that even if it looks like not much has been done, we stand proud here to say that key institutions have been put in place that safeguards our Constitution and our human rights. Today, as I stand here, there is now a Commission of Human Rights Council, fully fledged, where people who feel violated by arms of government or private sector can go there and report the ills and will get a full hearing and until their issue is resolved. As we speak here, there is also the Commission for Gender Equality, those who feel that they have been violated on the sector of gender have got a full year waiting to hear them in that regard. We also have the Commission for the Protection of Cultural, Religious, and Linguistic Rights. Those who feel that their religious or cultural or linguistic rights are violated are always welcome to walk in and ensure that their issues are attended to by professionals. We also have various NGOs that say that not in their names and they do not turn a blind eye to the societal ill. As I speak here, comparing to 10 years ago, if you walk into the courts now, into the police stations, into the magistrate courts, you will find that they are 10 times more friendlier to GBV victims and children than they have ever been during all the hundreds of years of colonial and apartheid rule. Our labor laws, as you know by now, remain extremely steadfast in ensuring that no one is discriminated upon as far as the practicing of labor laws is concerned. And as you know, failure to adhere to some of these rules results in people paying years and years of compensation. So all these agencies I've mentioned are agencies with teeth. You also have the PEN, South African Language Board, which also assists people in dialect and ensuring that their languages do not die. You also have the institution that you have grown to love, the Public Protector of South Africa, which also ensures that your rights are safeguarded. Program directors, allow me to end it here. Thank you.
Program directors, the executive mayor of Sidibeng, VC of the university, Vaal University of Technology, your management staff, CEO of the National Heritage Council, board members and management staff, Sharpeville massacre families, the Kumanani project group, VUT students, learners, and academics, distinguished guests, all foundations present, members of society, I greet you all. Seeking restoration of human dignity through our heritage in the 30 years of democracy is what brings us here today. It was on the 21st of March in 1960 when the history of Sharpeville was changed forever. And through the sacrifice of those who paid the ultimate price, 69 of them, and those who were injured, one of the most significant building blocks of establishing our democracy was put in place. I would like to structure my talk today into the following categories. I would like to speak to Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe. We don't talk of the 21st of March 1960 and not mention him. I would like to speak to the views of government at the time and the restrictions that were in place. And also to tap into Sobukwe's mind and his way of thinking and what it is that made him seem so dangerous at the time, and hopefully draw some inspiration from that. And then finally take it to where we are today, 30 years of democracy and challenges that our country still faces. Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe was born on the 5th of December in 1924. And in 1947, he enrolled at Fort Hare University, where he ultimately became the SRC president, was an active student in the ANC Youth League. Quite interestingly, before he went to varsity, he was not really interested in politics. But upon engaging with other scholars and other activists, then he became keenly interested in politics. In the 1949, that's when he became the president of the Fort Hare Student Representative Council. And in December of 1949, the same year, he became the national secretary of the ANC Youth League. In 1954, he moved to Johannesburg, where he became a student, a postgraduate student at Wits, and then ultimately a lecturer. And that's where he got the nickname Pro, Umhlekazi, Professor. And in 1958, that's when he completed his honors dissertation at Wits, titled A Collection of Xhosa Riddles. And a distinctive moment in his life was perhaps in the 1959 and years leading to that. And that's when he was not in agreement with the non-racialism position of the ANC, and that's when he went to formulate the Pan-Africanist Congress. And I think at the time, the politics of the day, it's important to perhaps reflect a little bit on that. And in my talk and in trying to get into his mind what he could have been thinking, that is what I'm going to focus on. And maybe taking it a step further, skipping the events around 1959, 1960s and earlier on, perceive how the government of the day looked at Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe. I'm taking it a step further, but I will go back to the events of the day. From the events of 1960, the planning was happening, the check around the time, the ANC, this is now in protestation against the Donbasses. The ANC was having chats prior to that in December of 1959, and in 1960, in the earlier months, January, February, there were chats again about the protestations against Donbass. Maybe to the young ones and to the rest of the audience who might not fully appreciate what a Donbass was. So this was your ID, your identification, which you had to carry with you everywhere you went. And just to highlight the importance, you can leave your driver's license at home, sometimes you can leave your ID at home, but just to highlight the significance and the burden of carrying a Donbass is that the analogy given when I recently visited at Robben Island was that if your house was burning, imagine your house burning down, and you had an opportunity to run in and save whatever you could save, risking the blaze. What you would get would be your Donbass, because it restricted movement. Without it, you could not leave. Next to your oxygen would have been your Donbass. So black people at the time had to carry the burden of moving around with this Donbass. Now, Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe comes and says, we are going to protest against carrying these Donbasses. And he also does it in a very intelligent manner. In writing at the time, he wanted it to be peaceful. So peaceful protestation and surrendering of the Donbasses. And you can imagine, with all the pressure and the apartheid regime at the time, with all the violence that has taken place, but Robert Sobukwe took a different stance in how it should be approached. And that is it to be done in a peaceful manner so that who the savage was could be exposed at the time. And for that, he was arrested for 3 years in prison. And the charge was that he incited violence. So this was for incitement. However, something unimaginable happened. After completing his sentence, then the government at the time realized how dangerous this man was, and had a special clause passed in government. So now you have parliament sitting, they say this leader is now free. How do we further prevent damage? I would imagine. And there was the Sobukwe clause, which enabled the Minister of Justice at the time, which was Johan Forster, to have the discretion to extend a prison term by a year. For no reason, just on his discretion, you get 1 year. And for that, he got about another 6 or 7 years, based on the Sobukwe clause. Now, the context of this is just to give you an idea of the build-up to the 21st of March in 1960, and the headspace of the leader. And now, more than that, to also signify how feared and how terrified the apartheid government must have been. When he was taken to Robben Island now because of this Sobukwe clause, to join other political prisoners, he was kept in isolation. He could not talk to anyone. And the interesting part was that at Robben Island, whenever they did their roll call, if there were 100 prisoners, there'd be prisoner number 1, 2, up to 100 with names, and they would say +1. Ex-prisoners +1, and the +1 was never mentioned. And that was Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe. So this is the type of a leader we are talking about. Now, I want us to go back now and tap into his mind. And one of the areas where I felt we could use to tap into his mind was one of the speeches that he gave at his inaugural speech now as the PAC president, after founding the PAC, to appreciate, and this is now going to connect with my message later on, as a message of hope to the youth, about the limitations and the way of thinking. In that, despite all that was happening, the Donbasses, Robert Sobukwe did not allow the system to imprison his mind, his imagination, and way of thinking. He was a global leader. He had a global perspective. He could see beyond apartheid. He could see and imagine the world for what it should have been, and conducted himself as such. Hence, he became so successful that he could even lecture at Wits, despite all the challenges and all the other things that he did for the Pan-Africanist movement. Now, this was in his speech when he painted a picture of the global scene, what he sees the world as. And I quote, "In the international scene, we are living today sons and daughters of the soil, fighting in the cause of African freedom. We are living today in an era that is pregnant with untold possibilities for both good and evil. In the course of the 2 past years, we have seen men breaking asunder with dramatic suddenness, the chains that have bound his mind, solving problems which for ages it has been regarded as sacrilege even to attempt to solve. However, in spite of all these rapid advances in the material and physical world, man appears to be either unwilling or unable to solve the problem of social relations between the man and man. Because of his failure of this part, we see the world split today in the 2 stages represented by the US and the Soviet Union." End of quote. This goes on to describe the politics of socialism, elements of capitalism. And as you engage further in his speech, you will see how he defends the African position, where we are as Africans and where we should be placed in the global context. Now, to bring it home, This is what Robert Mangaliso Sobike described or saw apartheid as. And I quote, "We are being wooed internationally at a time when South Africa, the naked forces of savage Harenko-Vilnism are running riot, when a determined effort is being made to annihilate the African people through systematic starvation, at a time when brutal attempts are being made to retard, dwarf, and stunt the mental development of a whole people through organized miseducation, at a time when thousands of people roam the streets in search of work and are being told by the foreign ruler to go back to a home which he has assigned them, whether that means the breakup of their families or not, at the time when the distinct badge of slavery and humiliation, the Donbass, is being extended from the African male dog to the African male bitch." End of quote. Those are very strong words in describing and defining the system of oppression. And key in that, and what I'm going to spend a lot of time on in my closing, is the miseducation. At the very heart of the apartheid system and making it functional and sustainable in the eyes of the oppressor was the miseducation. Because when you are miseducated, you do not know who you are. When you are miseducated, you do not know where you come from. And without those two, you do not know where you are going. Now, 30 years on, since the beginning of our democracy, as a country, we are faced with many challenges. And a message of hope is needed. Social ills, drugs, drug abuse, the youth unemployment, and so on and so forth. And I would like to draw inspiration and perhaps link it to myself and hopefully inspire a young lady or a young man sitting here today, and in relation to the story of Tintswara and how the president conveyed it in his State of the Nation address. Not to politicize it, but to share my own journey, where I come from, and relating to that story, and showing the endless possibilities that exist. In your introduction, Speaker, you mentioned that I am from Orange Farm. Indeed, I was born in Soweto but raised in Orange Farm. I studied, then I was from very humble beginnings, and I received an opportunity to study my undergrad in mechanical engineering, and then ultimately my master's in mechanical engineering, and then went further on to become a professionally registered engineer. Then studied several other programs, but following that line of thinking, I then established my own company called Mkhalifi Engineering. The company today employs about 59, and it was recognized by the president in 2022 at the inaugural Black Industrialist Conference. This is now industrialists in the country that are meant to foster economic growth and job creation and so forth. And Mkhalifi Engineering was recognized. And as a young child growing up in Orange Farm, my father was an activist. He was a Pan-Africanist Congress member. I remember as a young boy when I was 9, 10, we would come to the rallies in Sharpeville. I remember at the time, PAC used to host their own rallies, and the ANC would host their own rallies as well. And at the time, I think Motsuko Peku was the president. And it was a very emotionally charged experience. You can imagine for a 10-year-old at the gravesite, and all this history has been told. And from that, I drew inspiration. Going back to Orange Farm, and there was no other alternative except education. And, I put in the effort and opportunities presented themselves. And then I was able to study, and even, the passion of taking the engineering profession further and establishing my own company. And we, like the speaker mentioned, that we hold several patents, intellectual property, which is very rare in engineering or in the space of science and technology. But now, the reason I'm sharing that is to go back to what Robert Mangaliso Sobiko mentioned when he said miseducation is a weapon used against a black child. And I want to say, with the opportunity you have and with what the VC has introduced on the opportunities that exist in this institution and any other higher institution of learning, is that we see education as a tool. Because it might not be paid for, because we might not struggle to go to class anymore, that we see it as a tool to better ourselves, a tool that is protected by our constitution, as the CEO has shared, a tool that we can use as a weapon that was used against us. We can use it to advance ourselves. And lastly, to the families of those lost in the massacre, my message of comfort is also that in focusing in the future, let us invest time in the youth. Let us impart knowledge that we learned with the opportunity that you do not have, with the miseducation, that we use that as a learning tool to impart knowledge in our youth. I thank you.
Speaking here, it's Mwandem Sagaza, the current academic officer of the SRC, a member of EFF and EFF in good political standing. I would like to appreciate all grannies. They fought a very good fight because some of us were being governed by what? By the constitution, which didn't exist, which is what they were fighting for. So now I would like to submit one thing. Comrade students, let's make sure we fight for a better change because so us, it's simple now, it's to continue where they have left. Thank you very much.
batho ba baholo ba dira ditulo ba ditseng mona kaofela bona. Ke bone ke dumedise le mme Lerato le yena majoro wa rona wa ka Setleng. Ke thabela boteng ba hao mme. Dingaka ha diyo, ha sa re tshepisa hore o tla fuwa dingaka tsa mahala tsa special, empa di tla jebolele ha o so di fumane. La tla bua empa ha kgathalle jang pasa ena ya motho a sa itsebeng keng. Ke thabela lona bana ha le le teng ka jekoleng le tsebe hore o ke jela jang pasa ke be ya bona next to my heart. Ho se yona ke a tshwarwa ebe ntate o ikenya handbag mona ha sa ikenya mo o a tshwarwa. Wa isuela ga tsana ho lona ke so kana diplasing maburu mo di tla shatante benka lona ba ka ba le bona le masapo a lona ba ka ba bona ke setso sa apartheid ke so ke a senyeha. Ke a senyeha bana rata hore na ha re ntse re apartheid re reng kuba ha le tsebe bana ba rona le phela ha monate hona jwale tje ka madi a batswadi ba lona bo nkgono ba lona bo ntatemkholo ba lona. Bana ba setseng bana ba sotlega. O no o sama dompasa ya hao hore ha le ponesa le kena le fumane ha o kokota le fumane mosamo ho tsonjolo o a tshwarwa o ya toilet o jere dompasa bona ho wena ha o sa e jere ke molato. Bana ba hana nkgono a tsofetse ba hana motho a present bana ba mo tlatlapa ha o thabela empa o ya shapu tupa ne se re tswaetse a ba so ne re le ba ho bane modimo re ntse re be ba sona rona ho bane rona re sotlaile ha kana ho bane re tla fumana neng freedom rona mahlasi bana ba di-victim kaofela bona kaofela lona ke re tshedise hang bana beso ka tsatsi le leng le rona re tla fihla kanana re tla kena kanana. Batho bana ba sotlehile ba ntse ba sotleha le hona jwale. Ho itse TRC tla tlo wa fepa tla tlo wa fa dintho mangolo a bona a TRC ana a bua ka dingaka empa dingaka ha ba so di fumane ho no thwa no wa tla dikolo mahala le hona jwale ha ba so kenye dikolo mahala. Ni sebetsi ha eyo ho bona bana ba bona ha ba sebetse matlo hayo ba petsetsa ka ha fa o mo masala o ba tsa dikukeng ngata e tshang bosiu le motshehare. Ho mashabi libito la human right ha le tloe ke shawil massacre. Yes yakuba ke shawil massacre o ba di ke lona le re tlisitseng ho futa na bona women right day. Ho commemorate ha ona bona le haile motho wa ne a tla thunyetswa nne kapa motho wa ne a ya ga haola loto a itse ka la le corona ga tsatsi leo motho ke nka oje mpo no oje ka tsatsi leo ho ba ho tla commemorate ke bohloko le tsa ke ntse ka bua le ha ke a jwetsa ke ka bua ke a di ka sinyela.
Director, Melang Happy Women. My task is very, very simple. I was set to reflect a little on what individual speakers have said, and I'm going to do just that. Just before I stood up, I focused with the program director that they are giving me at least 10 minutes. The man is so stitched that he said 7 is enough. I thought, well, to know how can I summarize all the important speeches only in 7 minutes. But be that as it may, I decided, number one, to focus just a little on Mangaliso Robert Sobukwe.
Let me announce myself first and foremost. I've been a member of the African National Congress, and I'm sure it will be surprising for many of you. Who is this man wishing to speak about SOGU? In 1976, shortly after the student uprisings, our consciousness was opened, and then we began knowing right there in Soweto who were members of the liberation movement. And around that time, liberation movement referred to both African National Congress and the Pan-Africanist Congress. And if you remember well, 1977, there was the death of Steve Biko in prison, in detention. And a lot of us in Soweto went down to bury him. And then thereafter, the following year, it was the death of Mangaliso Sobukwe. And then again, the buses were moving from the China Mundi. We went to the Eastern Cape, Graf Reinet, to bury Sobukwe. And from there around Soweto, there were quite a number of former ANC activists. It's wrong to say former because the ANC was banned, others went underground, and others remained above board, but we didn't know. And on top of that, we never knew some of us in 1976. There was a thing, an organization called Mkonto. As long as we heard that a person was a member of the liberation movement, was an activist, we went there to bury them, we attended, we reorganized Imilindelo, if you remember how we used to bury people. So in short, we never allowed ideological differences that were there between the ANC of the 40s and the PAC. We recognized all of them and thought that they deserve our respect. Now, fast forward, in many years since after that time, today you find that the liberation struggle has been confined to a few individuals, which is also quite sad. But there's nothing, even one little building named after Sobu. Now, I'm putting the challenge to all of you. There was one PC old man who said, guys, even if you name a public toilet after Sobu, it will be fine. To show that it had them the most because there was nothing, that symbolized Sobu. So, in view of the fact that there are generations who comes after us, it is up to them, whether you are ANC or to ask the ANC people that have been in government, but how come you have ignored the role played by Sobu? We even asked, right on Robben Island, is there anything written about Sobukwe there? Because after he served the terms of the so-called Sobukwe clause, he was kept there on the island, not as a prisoner. They built a special house there to keep him there until this sentence came to pass. And apparently nothing has been symbolized there as a place where Sobukwe spent his life, the remaining years of his imprisonment on Robben Island. So we are throwing this to you young people to take it up and ask the powers that be to know. But why do you ignore people like Sobu? Sobu was a member, he's a founder member of the Youth League of the ANC. He differed on just one small thing. South Africa belongs to all those who live in it, black and white. And they said, no, this is in violation of the Program of Action of 1949, which called for the return of the African country, the African soil, has to be returned to its original people. So in short, do not pass the ANC leader and ignore your historical mandate of finding out with little building a statue of Sobukwe and reflect on the life of Sobukwe and his contribution to the national liberation struggle. Today the struggle is confined around a few people, and all of you again are quiet about it. So that is the challenge. My second point, people, is to look at the human rights struggle in the context of the current national and international revolution. We want to appeal to students from now on to take their rightful place in the unfolding drama of national liberation. The national liberation struggle has so failed. Smaller issues that makes people's life. There's no money to take others to school, there are no jobs, and all those things. She's not talking Marxism or socialism. She's talking practical issues of life. And it is challenging the ruling party and members of what they call the civil society to stand up again and push the struggle until South Africa is a place that we all deemed it to be when we're still waging our liberation struggle. And finally, the other important thing is that whilst many graduates are not employed, the key challenge is still to get people educated. We know that this poverty is a temporary thing, setback, right? And for that reason, we have to prepare ourselves for good times that are coming. And that means do not really be demoralized by the fact that there are no jobs and say, I'm not going to school. After all, graduates are sitting around, they are not working. It's better that when the situation improves, you should be holding your own degree or your honors degree, or even your master's. So in short, we encourage people to take education extremely serious, because it is the main. If you say a person is liberated, number one is when Steve Biko said liberation of the mind. And you can't achieve liberation of the mind without studying. So we appeal to you that even your kids, encourage them that they should study. We inherited a society where for many years Africans were denied education. And we have not even improved a significant percentage of that problem that we inherited from apartheid. I'll leave it at that and ask you people to reflect on all those things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Sekana. Right now, I'll open the floor to just 5 hands, or human beings with hands, to comment and or ask questions. The strongest weapon in the mind of the oppressor is the brain of the oppressor. There will be a time, if you continue suing Zionists, where you might have sanctions in this country. And some countries that are under sanctions have had to rebuild their industry almost from scratch and de-link. And they are surviving on the expertise of their engineers and their human science thought leaders. And if we don't do what Dr. Sekana has said, and we don't follow the example of our guest speaker, if and when such a time comes, we will be completely amputated in every manner of way. So we have now the floor. Any hands? I see you, Madam. I see you, number 2. And there's a 3rd hand there, Mama Khori. Anyone on this side? Jamal, number 4. And then who's number 5?
Testing.
Okay. Last person there. I am sorry that I cannot take more. I would have loved to do that, but you know that we have the logistics problems. Let's start with the first speaker.
Greetings to everyone. My name is Ayabonga Machaya. I'm a student at VUT pursuing my 2nd year in Diploma in Tourism Management. My first question would be, I have heard all the speakers, they have presented their presentation, but one thing that was left out of their presentation was there was a massacre that happened in Sharpeville. What are they doing to preserve the families of those people? Number one, there are families that are still alive today. There is no trust fund that is provided to them. There is no proof that says, I as the government, I give these families this money every month. Number two, you speak of liberation. You say we are free. Mara, what I can account and say, we are not free. Still, there are students out there in the country that walk to school with their feet, and then there are students out there that goes to schools that are demolished. Remember, we say a clause in the Constitution of South Africa in Bill of Rights says we have the right to basic free education, fair and equal. That basic has a clause. Just to remind each and every speaker, that basic right has a clause. It doesn't indicate that I, as Ayabonga Machaya, as a higher learning institution learner, I have a right. It only says basic education. What are the speakers doing about that? And also, please, I have this question. This is a very important question. If you say you are going on UNESCO, fighting for Sharpeville massacre to have a recognition as heritage, what are you also doing about other places that are not mentioned as Sharpeville massacre? Thank you.
A round of applause.
Next one, please. Only 2 points, madam.
Good afternoon or good evening. Ngicela ukuthetha ngesintu. Seeing that this is a National Heritage Council thing. Njengomuntu, I believe you have heard these speakers saying in whatever that they have said. I was touched that because students in tourism. I love that. Ikhona into ethi ngumama uphethane pha uthi abantwana babo abafundiswanga abasiwanga ezikolweni for mahala. The doctors that they were promised, they were never given. Ndicela ningangigcobi ngamatshe. Nothing is for free under the sun. Siyayihola i-350, siyayihola undende and whatever. Kodwa ayikho into yamahala emhlabeni. We have learners here. Guys, you can have NFSAs there, but if you don't qualify to go to any higher institution, you will be nothing. Kodwa, provision is there. My plea to the young ones, and the full Sharpeville 1960, and full we are going to talk about it until Songe Sengwabeni. If we are not going to change the way we do things, as parents, we should start to teach our children that you work hard for everything that you have under the sun. If you don't work hard, uzawuhlalula for the rest of your life. And you will always, please listen, you will always blame people because you are hungry. You must go on with your life. Yes, the government is trying. The 350 that you get, your makuru that is getting whatever amount that you get, kodwa angeke ikwenze inwele nenqophe nenzipho. That money will not buy you beautiful clothes. The thing that has left our country and our people now is pride. Umnyama nebhulu esitratweni belimazi uba une pride. Now you have thrown away your pride. You accept anything. You don't build yourself up. Yes, we have expectations from the government. But if you have a patch of land, awucela imali yokuthenga seeds zespinach, you are always going to blame people. you must start to do something for yourself first, so that when you go and you ask people to help you, bakubonisa ukuthi business plan yenziwa kanjani, then you can move on. Let us stop this thing of we are entitled. We are not. We are not entitled. Everybody, let's do I'm sorry, I'm not speaking to the people that are up there. I'm speaking to the people that are here. I am an educationist. Therefore, when I see people here, I see the people that will take my country forward. My country forward. Because I know the struggles of where we are now. But I can see that post-democracy, ingathabantu abazazi bangobani. Nizilibele na ukuba nizalwa ngobani.
Siyabonga. Next, please. Look, here is the third person, I think. It was number 4, and then there was the person in green at the other side. Only 2 points, and please be reasonably brief.
Izwe lethu Africa. Yeah, small. But me, I did that to prove a point. I want to speak to young people here. I consider myself a historian, and from studying history, I've learned a lot in other countries. Isn't that we're never taught, not in school, not by our parents, not by TV, not by anything. Just go to the library. You guys have a library, Sharpeville. There's libraries in Vanderbilt. And now, I said it. I didn't know. Okay, but then, point of the matter, familiarize ourselves with South African history, familiarize ourselves with African history, because you cannot study South African history and not study African history. And then the second point is the question. I don't know who's going to be best qualified to answer this question for me. In my quest of studying South African history, I've came across this Robert Sobukwe clause more than like once, guys. I still to this point don't have full context and full information as to exactly what that clause was. I know it was created, but I just don't know what the clause was, what it is, and apparently still exists in constitutional time. So if there's anyone from the speakers who can be able to tell the audience more about the Robert Sobukwe clause, we'd appreciate it.
Asate lo motho ga sethunya, asate lo go lwana, a thunya, ka 84, ka di 26 ka November. Ha so be le lejwe. Mahlasi ba bang a betse majwe, bafu ba bang ba betse majwe. Empa ngwana monyanya mokana. Ha so be le lejwe. 684, ha so be le lejwe. Ha ke thole kozara, ha ke thole kozara, ha ke thole netse. Ngwana yena o robetse. Ho thotse fela botse government o thotse ha re netse ka ngwana heso. Ga kopa batswadi ba dula ditulo go kopa di re thusa Sharpeville ha re thusa hale batswadi ba rona go kopa mahlasi ba rona a be le majwe le ona go sa bana kgathollo ha re batle kgathollo ga kopa re fuwe di khosa ga kaofela rona di victim ga kopa batswadi ba rona ga kopa ditulo tse kgolo mo ga le rapela e seng hantle ga kopa ga hlophela ha re na mesebetsi ha re thole Sagana dinka ga kopa tswetswe nna ke mokopela le jo ngwana heso e sala go bala ka itifona le 40 years ga go betse hana lesho tswele go
Thank you very, very much. Look, now we are almost at the end. I promise we'll only take 5 minutes. We wish there was time for more. But the way we like to see this as NHC is to say we've demonstrated that it can be done. we encourage that this community, these conversations have to follow up. This must not be the last. Luckily, we are doing this at the university, which is the natural place for discussing matters that matter in the community. Now, a couple of things have been raised, and I'm not taking over from our speakers, but I'm jealous of the time. One of the issues that has been proposed is the development fund or a trust fund. And I have asked the colleague from business, due to NCSI, I think even before I said what his name is, when they said to me, we have a business, okay, what is your CSI program? Now, I was going to ask the DC, what are the initiatives of the alumni fund and the development fund? Is there a Sharpeville Massacre Memorial Massacre, even if it's funded by Sasol or by somebody else? These things that have been mentioned here might not happen in the exact manner that people propose, but its concept.
Yes, all protocol observed. Ke dumedise gape le bana ba rona, the future leaders, le bomme ba rona. On behalf of the Selope Tema Foundation, I would like to extend my warmest gratitude to the National Heritage Council, the Vaal University of Technology, for hosting this prestigious event, of course including City Municipality. Selope Tema was a prominent figure, a founder member of the African National Congress, who lived around the 1920s and he died in 1955. If it were not organizations or institutions such as the NHC, he would still be unknown. As the family of the Selope Tema, we're saying thank you. Today I've asked to come and comment on the discussions that have been happening since we came here. South Africa's human rights is a tapestry woven from the threads of countless cultures, languages, and traditions. It is a mosaic of colors, sounds, and flavors that reflect the resilience and unity of our people. I was so inspired when I listened to the little ones, performing. What a performance. When Africa is happy, Africa sings. When Africa is happy, Africa dances. From the rhythms of traditional music to the tantalizing aromas of our cuisine, our heritage is a source of pride that binds us together as one nation. Indeed, our heritage plays a crucial role in fostering unity and understanding among South Africans. Through our commitment to human rights, we fought for democracy, and we contrast apartheid, which has robbed us our freedoms. Freedom serves as a bridge that connects us to our ancestors through culture and to each other, transcending barriers of race, ethnicity, and religion. By honoring and preserving our heritage, we reaffirm our commitment to building a society that embraces diversity and celebrates the uniqueness of every individual. Remember, in the past, we couldn't communicate, we couldn't go wherever we want. We were confined to what was called the homelands, and we could not integrate. That did not promote unity. But after 30 years of democracy, we are free. Despite the challenges that we have, we are able to move wherever we want to be. And we are able to go to schools wherever we want to go. And I heard the Vice Chancellor offering you, our kids, to come and take opportunities that are available, that are prevailing. And I'm saying to you, take those opportunities and stay away from drugs. Stay away from drugs. Stay away from liquor. It only buys it only call, and then you're gonna miss the opportunity that the guest speaker was talking about. I call myself a Dinzalo as well, because I'm from the rural areas of Limpopo. But I never allowed the limits that were facing me to stop me from achieving what I wanted to achieve. And I want you to follow in our footsteps. When I first went to university, chairperson, I had to go and get a permit to go and study at the White University. I had to get a permit to go and study at a university in our country, because it was a so-called White University first. And I went to overseas. In New York, they didn't ask me for a permit. I just filled in an application form. Can you see that where we come from the past, it was terrible, it was disastrous. And through the fights of men and women who sacrificed, like Ndate Sobu, like my grandfather Ndate Tem, and others, many others, some died in jails, some were hanged in jails, for us, you and me, to enjoy the freedom. But I was very inspired by our guest speaker when he said, I run a company that's employing 59 people. He's feeding 59 families. Can we give him a hand of applause? He's feeding 59 families. What is it that we can do to emancipate us? What is it that we can do to liberate us? You know, even after we have been enjoying the democracy, we are still saying, I want somebody to create a job for me. But here are people who are creating jobs for others. It is possible if we want to. Apartheid was a system of legislation that upheld segregation against non-white citizens in South Africa. After the racist White National Party gained power in 1948, an all-white government was installed. It began enforcing existing policies of racial segregation, and under apartheid, non-white South Africans, a majority of the population, were forced to live in separate areas from whites and use separate public facilities. Contact between the two groups was limited. Despite strong and consistent opposition to apartheid within and outside the country, the laws remained in effect for the better part of 50 years. Our celebration of national heritage symbolizes victory over apartheid. And our celebration of heritage goes beyond mere acknowledgement. It is a profound act of reverence and gratitude. It is an opportunity to pay homage to the sacrifices and contributions of all those who came before us, all those who fought for us. And let us enjoy this heritage. Let us embrace our heritage, because how can those people do not have a culture. Now we have a rich culture that we must embrace and enhance and improve and innovate. As we reflect on the significance for this month, let us recommit ourselves to celebrating and preserving this rich tapestry of our cultures that make up the fabric of our nation. Let us embrace our heritage as a source of strength and inspiration. And then let us continue to build a future that honors the legacy of our past. Arians Kolombana Besu. There's no hope.
Thank you so much. We're going to the end, colleagues. I will now, without further ado, firstly, register profound appreciation for this rich message, Ramarumo, that you've given us. And I know that
in agreement with you, Chair, in answering the question on the segregate laws, I think it's important to mention that it would be unconstitutional. Now, even in the interim constitution, 94 to 96, it would not, the laws would have been revised. I know there are a lot of laws because of how law works in terms of following precedents. So a lot of acts that were in existence during the apartheid regime are still existing today. But the reason is that they are constitutional. So property rights or any other law, this is now looking at it in the broader context. But the long and short of it is that it would have been unconstitutional and therefore has no place in our constitution. Just maybe following up on the comment on education, I think the message cannot be emphasized enough that, young people take the opportunity, any opportunity that you have, go to school, attend class, surround yourself with positive influences and take advantage of the position we have now, which our elders did not have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think mine is just to reiterate that no one in government aims to claim easy victories or to insinuate that we have arrived where we want to be. So there are a number of issues that are not yet where we envisage them to be, but there are plans to be in place. Even ourselves as an entity, when we meet other government departments, we will share with them the issues that have been raised here, and they will also share with us their plans. So it will be plans because it's some of the things that cannot be done overnight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The question was, do we have any scholarship programs? The answer is we don't. And as a university, and I'm sure all of you are aware, that we heavily rely on the NSFAS as a major support for those who are not able to afford. But there is an HC here, whether do we have Sharpeville scholarship program? And I think it's something that I think as sitting here, we would have to think in terms of what's possible and with the support of the municipalities, so the government. What is also important, I'm sure there's a speaker who pointed out something very interesting, that sometimes we forget that it becomes important to do things for ourselves. To what extent are we, those of us who can afford, to be able to sit around the table and be able to plan for these things that are for us, rather than expecting somebody else to do it for us? So it is important, and I'm sure Mr. Martinez here has indicated that in terms of providing job opportunities, there are 59 families that are benefiting as a result of that. How many of us can be able to do something similar? And as a result of that, we are able to look at those things and build on them. And I think we can do more than relying on others. Thank you.
Ikupa ba mme ya buileng ka hore ha hona le dintho ka mahala. Mme mangolong e re a fumaneng a TRC a re file tshepiso ya hore ba tla re fa di-medical tsa mahala, ba tla re fa bana ba rona ba tla kenya sekolo mahala. Ke tshepiso e re e fuweng, re ntse re e lebeletse le hona jwale. Ke ka hona re reng rona mahlasipa kapa bana ba batho ba ileng ba bolawa ba fuwe dintho tseo tsa mahala, ba kenya sekolo mahala. Ke a leboha.
Thank you very much, Program Director. I think the approach that you are taking in concluding this lecture, it's very important that the team of us that are here, we have heard issues that are still not yet resolved. It's upon us with the varsity to say how to move forward. It might not be what I contribute as an individual, but collectively as a society, how do we support the good cause? Program Director, I open quote, history should not be thrown away like an old pumpkin. History should not be mocked or scaffolded at, I close quote. Those are the words of Sanus, the late Credo Mulanto. Today's 2024 Human Rights Commemoration, the public lecture, is the testament of wisdom that Sharpeville shooting, 21st March 1960, brutal and inhuman events against innocent souls and lives to continue to teach and make us aware about the selfless sacrifice of those who lead the way to 30 years of democracy. 34 years after the heroic day, we cannot throw away mock of scarf at the selfless sacrifice of Sharpeville massacre victims and the survivors, the families in 2024 or any other year. Sharpeville massacre is our struggle and liberation history. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir Isaac Newton, the famous leader in laws of motion and gravity, once said, I quote, if I have seen further, it is by standing in the shoulders of the giants, I close quote. This year we commemorate the 64th Human Rights and the 30 years of democracy, and the Sharpeville massacre is one event that we stand proudly as one in their shoulders of its victims and survivors. Now it's our possibility that today we kept our shoulders to strive for the socio-economic transformation as they have started the journey. It is very important to mention to this public lecture that the 21st March 1960, the Sharpeville Human Rights Prisons have been nominated as the program director, was given this information that as the municipality, we are really supporting this. And this shouldn't just be Sharpeville being the World Heritage Day. What is its significance? How has this changed the life of people of Sharpeville, the life of people of Varsity? You are really looking up to this, and we hope that the Varsity will always be with us in celebrating this and commemorating such. And we have real commitment as this government to make sure that Sharpeville resemble what happened in 1960. The Vaal University of Technology family, Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, National Heritage Council representatives, Sharpeville victims and survivors families, Kulumani Group, Abu Mama Betu, the political parties and foundation present, Sarah, Freedom Park, Ditsong, councillors that are here, activists, trade unionists, comrades, students and learners, and all youth formation. Program Director, let me take this opportunity to thank the following institutions and individuals in no particular order of importance. The Vaal University of Technology under the leadership of the VC Professor Kumalo, and let me take Professor Kehlan Grobu, and let me also officially welcome you into the Vaal, and we hope that as part of the stakeholders, there's a lot that the VUT we can learn from in taking forward the lives of the young people in this municipality. The Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, National Heritage Council, leading the role presenting and promoting our struggle and liberation heritage. Sharpeville victims and survivors, families, Kuluma groups, as I mentioned earlier, and our speakers of today, VCR President, Mr. Martins, the work that you are really doing in the community, that's really appreciated. I thank you for your attendance and contribution to this lecture, and hope to see you on the 21st of March 2024 at George Chari Stadium and any other events to commemorate the Human Rights Day. I thank you.